Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. Always Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj.
अरे बोल दे अनवर प्रणाम प्रभु जी.
Just give a couple of minutes through for devotees to join.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mati, Dandavat Pranamati, always Sri Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, we'll start in 2 minutes, devotees, for those who joined just now. Thank you. Yeah, we'll start today's session. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nastiki. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः. नमामि विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने. नमस्ते सरस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay. I'll share my slides. So at least for the 5th chapter, today we're doing the review of overview of 5th chapter to 8th chapter. At least for 5th chapter, I could prepare some slides with details. The rest of them, I have very minimal detail in slides. So we'll go over to the Veda base as needed, yeah, for this 6, 7, 8 chapters, especially the 6th chapter. So just before we start the 5th chapter overview today, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 4 chapters, right? So we'll briefly cover the overview of the first 4 chapters that happened in the 11th canto. So if you remember the first chapter, Basically, it started with Sukadeva Goswami describing how Krishna desired the Yadu dynasty destruction. And because of Krishna's desire, he orchestrated certain things in Yadu dynasty, lives of the Yadus. And that included the initial pastime of that chapter doesn't describe how Yadu dynasty completely destroyed yet. It just gives a hint. Again, it will the final portion of the pastime will be picked, Moshala Leela will be picked up later in the 11th canto. Here, what was described in the first chapter was how the Yadu princess go to the sages and then they fool with them by saying Samba is pregnant when dressed as a woman, and will she have a baby or girl or boy like that? And then sages are very powerful, so they understood their tendency and cheating propensities and how they're lying. So they curse them, saying that Iron Club will be born and that will be a cause for the destruction of your dynasty like that. And then they go back to Ugrasena king. They don't tell Krishna, that's the important point. They go to Ugrasena and Ugrasena doesn't consult Krishna, but he gives the order to powder that Iron Club into powder and throw it into the ocean near Dwarka. So then they they do that. They powder most of it, but there's a small piece left. The powder along with the small piece that could not be powdered. Everything they put in the ocean, and finally we'll find out that that later on became came to the beach and became like bamboos, and finally Yazoo dynasty each other will kill each other because of them. That portion will come later on. But essential stress of this chapter was how, because of Krishna's desire and because of Krishna's wish, this is what happened. If Krishna wanted, he could have averted the curse that sages gave also. So that is what is talking about. So that means that was the main principle emphasized in this chapter basically. Even our acharyas talked about that only. So now that is the first chapter, how we got the hint of the Yadu dynasty. And why did we do so? Why did we want to remove that labor, our burden from the earth, even though all the demonic kings are gone? Because there's so many descriptions are given by acharyas. Some of the key things were that Krishna considered that this is an opportunity for some of his eternal associates to return back to their home, to the spiritual world. And some of the associates who came, some of the people, devotees who came from demigod planets, heavenly planets, they go back to their heavenly planets also. So that orchestration was done. And that is also described in the section that some of the Yadus became proud of their power because they are invincible. Nobody can defeat them like that. So that was the other reason described in that context. And then, of course, another reason described, Jiva Goswami takes the positive side of Yadus. He says that actually uh, Yadus were so attached to Krishna that they cannot bear separation of Krishna if Krishna leaves before them. So that's why Krishna orchestrated like that. That's how Jiva Goswami takes that position. So like there's so many reasons are there. Essentially, Krishna orchestrated these things, uh, and Krishna can do anything. We know that is the chapter 1 basically. And then chapter 2 to 4, the interesting thing that started, which is will end in chapter 5. Basically, Narada Muni was in Dwaraka. Apparently, even though we hear in fourth canto that Narada Muni was cursed by Daksha, that you cannot stay at one place. Somehow, that curse did not work, it seems, in Dwaraka for Narada Muni. Meaning, Narada Muni spent a lot of time in Krishna, in Dwaraka, so that he can be is so devoted to Krishna that he wanted to stay close to Krishna like that. So, at one time, Vasudeva also happens to be in Dwaraka, and Vasudeva approaches Narada Muni for some instructions. And then Narada Muni instructs in Bhagavad Dharma. And while instructing Narada Muni while instructing Vasudeva, he refers to the conversation that happened between King Nimi or Maharaj Nimi and the Nava Yogendras or the 9 Yogendras, who are the sons of Rishabdev, whom we heard about in 5th canto. So that conversation he refers to tell. Of course, there are many wonderful things from this whole chapter also, whole this section also, but we don't have time to go over them. But I'll summarize at least the questions in the next slide. Yeah. So basically, one of the thing is, one of the way to take association with devotees, we need to remember this point. One of the ways to take association with devotees is not just to stay near them, not just to say, hi, how are you? How are you doing? You are doing fine, I'm doing fine. How is your children? They're doing fine, my children are doing fine. Not only that, it's not that that is wrong, but mainly discussion of transcendental knowledge needs to happen in any kind of association, number one. And with the discussion of transcendental knowledge, when that discussion happens, there should be some transfer of transcendental knowledge, number one. Further to that, not only transmission of knowledge, but also it should result ideally in transformation of our heart also. That means we should develop inspiration to devotion service. We should feel inspired to take up something more in devotion service, either quantitatively or qualitatively, through that exchanges like that. So that is what is real association. That's what we need to look forward to and be eager to participate in such association like that. And obviously, there are different kinds of association we can take. One association is we're always looking for devotees who know more than us, who are more devoted to Krishna than us, who are more inspired in devotion service than us, like that. Not necessarily they are longer terms in Krishna consciousness. They can be younger devotees in Krishna consciousness also. Sometimes young devotees in Krishna consciousness may be more related than us. So we should look up to them and be eager to take their association like that. So that is why in Srimad Bhagavatam, this principle is shown so many times. See, Vasudeva is asking Narada Muni questions. So Prabhupada writes, the devotee who is less elevated will ask the more elevated devotee for Krishna Katha, ask questions, and the more senior devotee will answer questions like that. That's how we discuss. The way to understand that point is that we should always consider as very small in terms of devotion we have for Krishna. And then we need to be eager to ask others, eager to discuss Krishna Katha with others. That's how we need to take. Yeah. And then other principle is whenever somebody, even juniors, ask us something and we get an opportunity to discuss Krishna Katha, we should become grateful. Wow. Because of his question, now I get to think, what did I hear about this topic? What did I read about this topic? What was my realization on this topic? What happened in my life that I can connect to this particular question? What did my Guru Maharaj told about this? What did Prabhupada say about this? Like that, we get an opportunity to reflect on those things. That means they are giving us an opportunity to remember Krishna and our Guru and Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam like that. So we should be grateful when somebody asks questions also like that. So that is another thing we can remember. And then Maharaj Nimi, similarly, when the 9 Yogendras came, he actually dropped his sacrifice that he was trying to do because he understood the power of pure devotee association. He immediately sought the eagerly association of Navayogendras. And again he starts asking questions. So in the second to fourth chapter, we heard about 7 questions he asked and the answers that each of the Navayogendras answered also. Now in the first chapter today we are going to discuss, this is chapter 5. The last 2 of the 9 questions answered by the last 2 of Navayogendras we'll discuss. That is the overall context and the flow of what is happening. So basically, Maharaj Nimi is asking questions and Navayogendras are answering the questions in terms of transcendental knowledge they are giving. So that is the overall context of this chapter. Now, very briefly, this table is extracted from one of the purports of one of the BBD purports in the second chapter. I believe it's 21st verse or 22nd verse. So nothing special. For the purport, it came into tabular form here. That's all. So basically, I wanted to review the questions before we go into the today's chapter. Basically, first question was what is the highest good? And this is in the parentheses I wrote where the question came from. And then here in the second column, we'll see which of the Navayogendras answered the question and where is the answer to those questions, like that. So what is the highest good? If you remember this question, Similar question was asked by Says of Navisarniya to Suta Goswami in chapter 2 of first canto. What is the ultimate good for everyone, like that? Their answer was bhakti. Bhakti and with qualifiers. Ayatiki, Aprathyata, Bhakti, like that. So that is the highest good. Bhakti towards the Supreme Lord. Bhakti is not for anybody else. Yeah. And then they also asked what are the religious principles, dharma, what are the natural proclivities, swabhava of a, all these things are characteristics of a Bhagavata or a Vaishnava devotee of the Lord. What are the religious principles he follows? What are the natural proclivities or tendencies that he has? And then what is the behavior of such a saintly personality, such a Vaishnava devotee? How does the speech look like? And then what are the outward symptoms or lakshana of that such a Bhagavata devotee? We notice these are parallel to the Bhagavad Gita. How does the transcendent Sthita Prajna sit? How does the Sthita Prajna walk? How does the Sthita Prajna speak? Like that, parallel to that. But it's a very nice section. You covered, I think Prithvi Mataji covered in the last session, yesterday. So then, next question was, what is the external energy of Vishnu, the Supreme Lord? The material energy, they want to know more about it. And the next question was, how can one become dissociated from this Maya? It seems almost impossible to dissociate from Maya because we're always in Maya. It feels like we're always influenced by modes of material nature. Is it even possible to get out of the trap of Maya? How can we become dissociated like that? Another question. Then what is the true identity of Brahman? And then what are the three types of karma that was asked? And then what are the various pastimes of various incarnations of God that was asked? And then that's what is discussed in the last 4 chapters. Now we'll focus on these 2 questions in the 5th chapter. What are the 2 questions? What is the aim or destination of somebody who does not worship Supreme Lord? That means somebody who's a non-devotee. What happens to them? What are the consequences of such actions when they're not worshipping Supreme Lord? First question. Second question, or the 9th question, they're asking, can you tell us the attributes of the 4 Yugavataras? What are their colors? What are their forms? What are their names? And how in each of the Yuga, how are they supposed to be worshipped? Like that they ask questions. So because this is overview, I'll discuss some of them. There's a 11th canto, like you might have noticed, is big purports for many of the verses like that. So with lot of detail, but obviously this is an overview. So we'll cover some of the essential points. So this is the overview of this chapter. Basically, the 2 questions that we just now discussed, 8th and 9th question, non-devotee destination, what happens to them, and then also the 4 Yugavataras. And then finally, Narad concludes the conversation, and Vasudeva and Devaki were satisfied, and they leave like that. That's what this whole section is, chapter 5. So now going into a little bit deeper. Now going to the 8th question that they asked out of 9 questions, right? So this picture is showing Maharaj Nimi seeing that Navayogendras are coming from the sky while he's performing the yajna. So he gets up and receives them nicely. That is discussed in the first chapter itself. I believe second chapter of this canto. So now, what is the question? Maharaj Nimi's question is critical and compassionate. Who says this? I was referring to the study guide by Burijan Prabhu, the backward glance. In that he writes, his question is very important and is compassionate. How is it compassionate? So he is describing. First, let us discuss the question. The question is, kindly explain destination of those who are for the most part never worship Supreme Lord Hari, who are unable to quench their material desires. Not only they are not worshiping Supreme Lord, obviously because of that, they'll be always trying to fulfill this material desire like that, keep on going and never be satisfied. Like quenching the thirst, that a similar term is used here. And you're not control of their own selves also. How come? Because when I'm always trying to do sense gratification this way, that way, this way, that way, I can never control myself. That we know. When the senses are in control, we cannot control. Instead, we, as a soul understanding our position, we develop higher spiritual intelligence and strengthen our spiritual intelligence through reading Shastra, hearing from Guru and Sadhu, then that can help to control the mind and senses like that. Otherwise, we cannot control our senses. That is what he is talking about. So he's asking, what is the destination of them? What will happen to them like that? So, so, so now Chamasa Rishi, the eighth question is answered by Chamasa Rishi. What is he saying? He starts to describe the importance of Varnashram system, how it helps in not only the spiritual welfare but also material welfare while they're living in this world also. That's what he describes. So in this section we learn that Varnashram system ensures that everyone in society worships the source of their own creation. How? Somehow, with different prescribed methods, they're encouraged to worship the Supreme Lord somehow or other, directly or indirectly. And in fact, one of the main essence of Varnashram system is nothing but satisfaction of Supreme Lord Hari. Samsiddhim Haritoshnam we hear. That is the real essence of the Varnashram system also. But if somebody fails to worship the Supreme Lord, somebody disrespects the Supreme Lord, what will happen to them? He describes that will make them fall into hellish life of suffering. What does this mean? Hellish life of suffering means? That means in this world while they're living, they'll get all kinds of sufferings. That is as good as like hellish life. As good as they're living in hell. They're living in the earthly planet, but they're suffering so much like hell only. That is one thing. Second thing is, after this life, they go to hellish planet also and suffer there again. So that is what is the result of people who are not worshipping Supreme Lord, non-devotees, and who are not following the Varnashram system also. Jan Chamas Rishi appeals to king. Actually, he glorifies the king, saying that you have the power. You can give this mercy to these people who are not envious. That means they're not averse to Lord's service, but they have very little opportunity to learn about him. In the Vedic culture, we know Sri Sudra and Vijabandhu, women, Sudras and other fallen classes, they don't get opportunity to study Vedas directly. So that's why he's saying, give them the opportunity to hear Krishna Katha. Give them the opportunity to chant Krishna's names and glories like that. And because that is the essence of Varnashrama. That is how you can give mercy to them, by giving them instructions on bhakti, like that, number one. And then this is from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And then he says, also give your lotus feet dust on their heads so that they can be rectified. They can be come back to the right path like that. So you notice these non-devotees can be of two classes. One is envious, one is not envious. That means ignorant people. So remember, we hear about Madhyamadhikari also. One of the functions is he is supposed to stay away from the envious people. Don't disturb them. At the same time, he is supposed to be merciful or compassionate towards the ignorant people. That means who are innocent people. They don't know. Actually, we may be surprised. Many people in the world are in this innocent category, ignorant category, because they don't know better. In fact, many of us, if you observe our lives, before we came in touch with some devotees in Krishna consciousness, we were also ignorant. We didn't know. We didn't know what is the purpose of life. We didn't know who is Krishna. We didn't know what is our relation with him. Why do we need to do bhakti? Why can't you do whatever everybody is doing in the world? Keep on going in the cycle of nice studies, nice job, nice family, nice children, nice grandchildren. Keep on going like that. So that is what is called ignorant people. So we also, as practice devotees, need to take a lesson that we need to be compassionate towards others. So we should not just take care of me, even in bhakti. We should take care of ourselves in bhakti. At the same time, we should try to, in whatever our capacity allows, we should extend ourselves to others to grow in bhakti also. It can be from small thing to whatever capacity we can allow. For example, giving prasadam, giving a book of Prabhupada, encouraging somebody to chant, encouraging somebody to come to the temple programs, encouraging somebody to come to hearing of the classes, encouraging somebody to come to reading programs, encouraging somebody to come to festivals to celebrate. Like that, we can encourage in different ways. Encouraging somebody to give a donation for the book distribution, donation for the temple services, whatever way somebody likes to engage. And encouraging somebody to give some service to devotee, because if you remember from first canto, second chapter, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, when he analyzes the stages of devotion service, I believe it's, yeah, second chapter only, yes, yeah, stages of devotion service, he tells how actually remember we have Ado Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, like that verse is there in Bhakti Rasam Sindhu, that 9 stages of devotion service. That Ado Shraddha, how are we getting it? By Satam Krupa, by a devotee's mercy on us. What kind of mercy? Devotees giving mercy to us by asking us to do some service. That is how devotees give mercy. So then, because of that, doing some service to the devotee, without knowing, by knowing or without knowing, some service to devotees. That's how we get that initial Ado Shraddha, that small flickering faith we'll get. Then when we get that flickering faith, then we listen to somebody. You come to the temple, okay, yeah, I will come. Or you come to this class, yes. Until that mercy comes, nobody will be inclined to take up bhakti practices. Forget about bhakti practices. Nobody inclined to associate with devotees even. That is why we also, one of the last item I want to mention is, we give opportunity for others to serve the great devotees especially. If opportunity to serve great devotees is not there readily, we give them opportunity to serve at least some senior devotees like that. But the more pure the devotee is, the more benefit they can get like that. That's another lesson we can learn from this section. So continuing further. So Chamasrusi, so far he described briefly about Varnashma Dharma now. And he told those who are non-devotees, they will suffer in hellish conditions like that we heard. And then he requested Maharaj Nimi, please give your mercy by instructing them in bhakti and by giving you lotus feet dust. Remember, for great devotees, remnants like lotus feet dust, the remnants of the food they ate, their garland that they wore, the water that bathed their lotus feet is very valuable for us. It's a lot of mercy like that. That's why he's asking to give his lotus feet dust also to those people who are less fortunate, who do not get opportunity to hear Krishna Katha and chant Krishna Katha like that, he say. Now, after saying that, he tells some results obtained by materialists, that means non-devotees, what happens to them. And the misery, and also misery for those who try to defeat the true purpose of Varnashram systems. So if you notice, there are two categories here. One category, materialists in this category, can be gross materialists who don't care about anything about Vedic culture, nothing about Vedic scriptures. But the other category that is emphasized here is people who know the Vedas, who know some knowledge of Vedas, but they're stuck in the Karmakanda, that fruit of flowery Vedas, flowery words of Vedas, Krishna talks about like that. If I do this, I'll get this. If I do that, I'll get that like that. That is one category is talking about. Another category is talking about is people who are learned. They're even Brahmanas. They learnt Vedas. But they somehow defeat the true purpose of Varna system. What is the true purpose of Varna system? Samsiddhir Hari to Oshnam, to please Supreme Lord Hari. But they don't do those activities that are prescribed in Vedas for pleasing Hari. Instead, they do their activities minimally to show off. Oh, I'm a great devotee. Like that. Because they're attached to that position like that. For example, even in ISKCON, for example, I'm attached to my position as I have to be seen like a senior devotee. Then I act in such a way. But I'm not acting to please Krishna. That is one kind of niyamagraha we know from Nectar of Instruction or Upadesham, the verse 2, right? That's what is being described here. We'll go into details now. So this 5 to 6 verses is talking about people member of the twice born. What is member of twice born means? Out of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, not Sudras, these three classes of men in Vedic culture were getting the second initiation. Second initiation at that time was by they get the opportunity to for with Upanayana samskara, and they get opportunity to chant Gayatri mantra like that. So even though their privilege wise they're higher because of their extra facilities they got in terms of samskaras they're subjected to, they can become bewildered and adopt various materialistic philosophies. What does it mean? That means they're attracted to Karmakanda portion of the Vedas, the materialistic portion of the Vedas. That because they are here, oh, if I do this yajna, then I go to heavenly planet and enjoy so much. If I give donation of clothes, I'll get nice clothes next lifetime. If I give a lot of money in charity now, I'll get a lot of money in next life like that. That's called fruitive activities. So they get attached to that only. They don't realize whatever I do, if I stay in the material world, I'm subject to problems, the four problems of life, birth, death, old age, disease, and the three miseries of life, Adhyatmika, Adibhutika, Adidavika kleshas. They don't understand that principle. They think I'm enjoying next life. But with enjoyment comes suffering, more and more suffering, more and more binding in the birth and death cycle. They don't understand that. And because they're stuck to fulfilling these material desires, they ignore the Supreme Lord worship. And they try to maintain their status by following some Vedic principles. So in that way, they actually become proud. And because they are actually proud, they're not humble. Remember Bhagavad 13th chapter, we hear, oh, for the process of knowledge, first step is humility. Amanitvam, Adambitvam, that verse comes, all right? So, because they're not humble, they can never be enlightened by proper knowledge. So, let us say I'm humble. I understand, oh my God, I don't know what to do in devotion service. Am I doing the right thing? Let us say, if I'm humble, I get the doubt. Am I doing the right thing? Let me check with somebody who knows. Then, if I'm humble, I can see others who know more than me. If I'm proud, I think everybody is like me only. Actually, everybody is worse than me, like that, I think. So, because they're proud, they're not able to recognize somebody who can help, number one. Number two, they cannot approach somebody who can help. Even if somehow they find somebody, they think they might be able to help. They don't want to approach because they want to maintain their position. I'm a senior devotee. They don't go to other devotee to ask advice, counsel, to clarify, to confirm, am I doing the right thing? What can I do in my life to progress in spiritual life? I'm stuck every day doing this with this bad habit. What can I do? They don't ask. So naturally, they'll be stuck in subject to the bondage because they're not doing work for satisfaction of Vishnu. That leads to bondage in the birth and death cycle like that. And then such people are influenced by mode of passion more and more and more and more. Remember, in Bhagavad Gita, we learned from 14th chapter, I think, the mode of passion is characterized by Trishna, thirst for fame, prestige, honor, like that. And then, so that is what they'll be troubled with, basically, mode of passion. And then also, mode of passion, other characteristic we hear from Bhagavad Gita is Sangha, attachment. They have extreme attachment and they have thirst for fame, prestige, honor, like that. So because of this, they will get different violent desires also. They become excessively lusty. Remember, Rajoguno Samadvya, Kameshu, Krodeshu, Rajoguna Samadvya, like that Bhagavad Gita verse is there, right? Basically, the point is, because of lust, the desires develop. So that strong desires. What does lust means really? Basically, development of those extreme desires that are not conducive to spiritual practice, that are not conducive to spiritual progress like that, or that are not prescribed in the Vedic literature like that. So that excessive lust they'll develop. And obviously, we know from Bhagavad Gita, when lust is satisfied, it will result in greed. When lust is not satisfied, lust desire is not satisfied, it will become anger. That's why they're angry like that of snake is described. By the way, I've summarized a whole bunch of big verses in this small bullet points here, so that we get the essence of that whole sections. So they become angry again like that. So remember, the Radhesham Prabhu calls this lag, lust, anger, greed. That's the way to remember lag. These are dangerous for us. These are primarily born in mode of passion, and they'll be going into ignorance like that. And we hear from Bhagavad also, these three are gates to hell like that. So hell means not only hellish planet, hellish life also. That means suffering in this life also. Because somebody is lusty, angry and greedy, they are violating the main principle of understanding Supreme Lord is the supreme enjoyer. Supreme Lord is the supreme controller. And Supreme Lord is a proprietor. They are missing that point. That is where they're becoming lusty, angry, and greedy like that. So now they become deceitful because of the passion influence. They become overly proud, we talked about. And it also results in sinful behavior also. And not only that, they mock the devotees, which will result in offenses. Offenses are worse than sin, we learn generally, because sins we can get rid of sins, many reasons, but one of the reasons, we can get rid of sins as at lower levels of devotion service, in a lower stage of devotion service. But offenses go out only at bhava and prema stage like that. So that means they will trouble us somehow or other later on. And offenses have the impactful nature, as they may not let us practice bhakti also. Whereas sins, we may be able to still practice bhakti if we are doing some sin. Of course, we know doing sins and practicing bhakti is another kind of offense, especially namaprad. If I'm thinking that by doing the sin, but I'll chant, I'll clear up my sin like that. But that is why offenses are even more dangerous like that. Then coming to further, materialistic follow, they give up worship of the Lord, and instead they'll practically worship their wives. That so the verse talks about. What does worship means? Worship means honoring someone, adoring somebody, and then offering whatever valuable things we have to that somebody. That is what worship means. That's why we hear sometimes some of our teachers talk about, oh, people in lower modes, they worship cricket stars, celebrities, famous actors, models like that, right? Why are they saying worship? Because we are investing our intelligence, our mind, our affection, our heart in relation to them. That's why it's called worship also. And then they don't do the regulated practice also. They don't distribute any foodstuffs. Then they don't give any charity to brahmanas or those who deserve the charity, and they engage in slaughtering animals. Actually, this slaughtering animals comes very repeatedly in several set of verses in this section. Especially Prabhupada brings it in BBD purports talk about that, because they don't care. They're not understanding, following Vedic scriptures to satisfy Supreme Lord. So they don't care about other living entities because they're not situated in spiritual conception of life. Not only that, not only they're doing sinful activity, not only they engage in offense to devotees, they do not hear Krishna Katha, but waste their time discussing topics about material sense gratification, such as sex life and meat eating. So now, because they're not hearing Krishna Katha, it's very hard for them to transform themselves, purify themselves. Because just by hearing Krishna Katha, just by hearing these topics, we can purify ourselves. Just by reading this Bhagavatam, we can get purify ourselves. But they're not able to do that. They waste their time in other material sense enjoyment topics. So that's what is being discussed. Now, not only that, now after describing these things, Chamasrushi describes what is the real purpose, how the Vedic scriptures sometimes talk about the allow sex life, they allow meat eating, they allow intoxication. So what is the real purpose? He will describe in the next section. So, but essentially it is meant for gradual renunciation, gradual detachment, not like by keeping on enjoying more and more and more, getting more and more like that, not getting sucked into the bad habit like that. So what will happen to them? While continuing to enjoy materially, they fail to see that insurmountable death will soon destroy their body also. So their whole life they're wasting while trying to enjoy materially like that. Now, In the next section, he describes, Chamasya Rishi describes, how are the Vedic principles supposed to be taken then? We are saying Vedas are telling to eat meat, Vedas are telling to sacrifice animals, Vedas are telling to engage in intoxication. So how are we supposed to take care of them? He is describing that. The proper application is, in some certain fire sacrifices, wine is offered, it seems. But the way we are supposed to honor that wine or drink that wine is by smelling it, not by drinking it, it seems. It's directly in translation, it's not even in purport. Yeah. And then the sacrificing animals is permitted in the Vedic scriptures for some rituals, some fire sacrifices. But it's not meant to open a big slaughterhouse and kill all animals in mass scale. Every day, thousands of animals get slaughtered. That's not what is described in scriptures. Scriptures are saying you do fire sacrifice for the specific purpose, religious purpose, and then with a qualified brahmana, then they can revive the life of that animal like that. That is what they're giving, not this incorrect understanding. And then what is the purpose of sex life? Religious sex life is meant to beget quality children, not for purpose of sense enjoyment like that. Like that he describes. And then he further describes such sinful people. Remember, this section is talking about what happens to destination of sinful people or non-devotees who are not worshipping Supreme Lord like that, right? Because they're ignoring the actual religious principles, but they consider themselves pious, commit violence against animals. So what will happen to them in their next life? Let us say somebody kills cows in this life or a goat in this life. Next life, they become cow or goat, and the same cow or goat will be born as a human being and kill them like that. For that to happen, we might have to wait several lifetimes, but it will happen basically. Of course, law of karma is complex, but it will happen. Nothing can lose, nothing can slip away. No one can slip away from laws of nature like that. Then, Chamakrishi, next questions, people who seem to be pious, but they're only superficially following the Vedic scriptures. Such people are very proud and foolish, envious of others, even including the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What is the destination of such people? They descend into hell. That is the main conclusion is giving to the eighth question, right? Eighth question. What is the destination of non-devotees? They're basically gradually degrade to hellish life of suffering. That's what we heard about. So the solution for them is mercy by devotees. We heard that also. Yeah. Now, in the next section, this is the second section of this chapter 5. What we are hearing is the ninth question. Ninth question is asking about King Nimi is asking about, please tell me about the Yugavataras and how are they supposed to be worshipped? Why is Maharaj Nimi asking this? Because in the previous section he heard about how people are so misfortunate, so people are suffering because they're not worshipping Supreme Lord. Remember, because they're not worshipping Supreme Lord, they're not getting mercy of Supreme Lord. Because they're not getting mercy of Supreme Lord, they're getting into hellish life of suffering. Clear that sequence? Now Maharaj Nimbeji want to reverse it. Now, if they worship the Supreme Lord, they'll get the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Then they'll be out of suffering. They'll be happy. But how do they start worshiping the Supreme Lord? Only if they understand the glories of the Supreme Lords. Not only they should understand who they should worship, why they should worship by understanding the glories of Supreme Lord, they also need to know how to worship. So that is why he asked them. Because people are living in one of these four yugas only, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. So if somebody knows what is the Yuga Avatara for each of these Yuga, how to identify them properly, and they know how to worship that particular Yuga Avatara, then obviously their life is set for happiness in this life and beyond this life also. So that is why he's asking this question, to attract them, to start worshipping them, and to give them knowledge. Remember, first people need to know why they need to worship. Then they need to know how and what. Similarly, when we are also sharing this knowledge of Krishna consciousness to others, including our children, we need to fortify the why before we teach them the what and how. That is very important, because as children grow up, they make their own choices. But if the why foundation is strong, then they will take it up, even if they lapse for a few years. Then they will remember the what and how and they will follow it. But the why is not there, they will say, my father used to do something. I don't know why he used to do. I don't know, my father used to push me every day to do this. I don't know why. They don't have any impetus to do it. So that is why he's asking beautiful question. This also shows the compassion of great devotees like Maharaj Nimi here. So he asks the questions like this. In what? Of course, like again I'm repeating, I'm summarizing these sections highly because there's lot of content in this section. He's asking, in what colors and forms Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in each of these four yugas? Please tell me. By what names he is known as, and with what type of regulative principles is Lord worshipped in those four yugas like that? What is the process of worship? What is the process of perfection for those yugas? Like that is asking. Then this ninth question, the last question of Maharaj Nimi, is answered by Karabhajana, who is one of the Navayogendras. He starts to describe the four yuga avataras. So the way he starts with Satyuga naturally, he says how Satyuga people are so nice, oh so peaceful, so non-envious, so friendly to all creatures. And they're already worshipping Supreme Lord. And remember, in the later chapters we'll hear Satyuga people are actually not only inclined to worship Supreme Lord, they actually situated in Ananya Bhakti, unalloyed devotion service it seems. Not even starting Bhakti or mixed devotion like that. Ananya Bhakti. And they don't have this Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra also. That we'll hear in later chapters of 11th Canto. They say there's only one social class called Hamsa, it seems, that's called. So they're so exalted like that. And they have a long age to live. Because of that, what they do in that age is meditation is the process for perfection for their age. And Supreme Lord in that age is called by so many different names. Hamsa, Suparna, Vaikunta, Dharma, Yogeshwara, Amala, Ishvara, Purusha, Avyakta, Parimatma, like that. So many names. So that is the names of the Supreme Lord is given in that Yuga Avatara. The idea is that people born in Sutta Yuga can easily attain perfection by following the process for that age, which is meditation, and by worshipping the Yuga Avatara of that age, because that Yuga Avatara is very, very mercifully inclined towards them. So that's why that is why he's describing all those characteristics of Supreme Lord like that. And it tells them what meditation is the best thing they can do like that. Then he comes to Treta Yuga. Treta Yuga, we know from Bhagavatam first canto itself that how, and we'll see that in 12th canto also coming up, that how as the ages progress further, next stage, 25% of this four out of the four pillars of religion, one is gone, like that is discussed. So now in Treta Yuga, worship of Lord Hari is done. People are inclined towards devotion service, not necessarily Ananya Bhakti, all everybody is situated like that. And Supreme Lord is known by so many names, it's given here again. Vishnu, Yagna, Prishnigarbha, like that. And then process of fire sacrifices is the best thing we can do in Treta Yuga to perfect our life like that. That's the age we know Lord Rama also appeared like that. And then Dwapar Yuga, he says, Lord's beautiful form of Krishna is described in this section. How his bluish body, he wears a yellow cloth, how he wears a peacock feather, so many, and he has a Vaijayanti Mala. All those descriptions are given in this section about Dwapar Yuga, Krishna's beautiful form. And then he says the method of perfection for that age is elaborate deity worship, like how you honor a king, like that you honor a deity. They create big elaborate temple, and not like us like offering 5 to 8 articles of worship, not like that. They offer so many articles of worship like that. And they worship, they decorate the deities with jewels like that all the time. Such elaborate worship is recommended in Dwapara. And finally comes to the key section, which is the most important section for us also, where Kali Yuga Avatara is described. What is Kali Yuga Avatara? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is the Kali Yuga Avatara. And many of you might be observed in meditation on the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. Just 1 minute. Nityananda Tridoshi is coming up in a week or so, less than a week or so. And then, of course, Gauranga is also coming up. It's good to meditate on Lord Chaitanya also, whether by reading certain sessions of Chaitanya Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita that we like, or by hearing certain classes on Chaitanya Charitamrita or Chaitanya Bhagavata like that. We can keep a goal like that when these festivals come, so that way we can work towards them. Then, basically, first describes the Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga, all these we know from first canto itself, we know all the different bad qualities of Kali Yuga brings to us also. Predominance of cheating, lying, sleepiness, violence, depression, lamentation, bewilderment, fear, and poverty. And it's called the age of mode of ignorance. I only summarized a few of these things here. Those verses describe too many qualities. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is introduced as the Kali Yuga Avatara. Yuga Avatara for Kali Yuga. Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshadam Yagnai Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Sumedha Saha. The translation of this verse goes like this. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting. Congregational chanting means Sankirtan Yajna, to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. So he's describing about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How he constantly sings the names of Krishna. And although, again, he's describing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although his complexion is not blackish, because Krishna's complexion is blackish, right? Somebody may think he's looking golden color, so he's not Krishna, somebody may think. That's why scriptures are telling he's Krishna himself. Then what else is described about him? He's accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. So his associate, he has the companions, associates with him, and actually by his beauty and by his mercy, he pleases everybody, and he gives love of Godhead to everybody. Whether seeing their qualification, without seeing their qualification, doesn't matter like that. That's why we hear from Rupa Goswami, Namo Mahabadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradate. Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurav Vishaya Namaha. Namo Mahabadanyaya. That is the word used. Why he is so merciful? Because he doesn't even see the qualification. Whether somebody is qualified or not. He is ready to give Krishna Prema. What kind of Krishna Prema? We hear in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The highest prema that Vrajagopis have also. Is ready to bestow that for us. So that's why when we worship Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda through our Guru, then we can be situated in the highest form of worship. We can go to even Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti and finally to Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. Yeah, that's the goal for all of us anyway. So this is detailedly discussed. Of course, we know so many scriptures, not just Srimad Bhagavatam, is identifying how Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Lord himself, with so many scriptures are given, not just Smriti, Shruti also like that. So that we have resources in case somebody needs, we can share also. Yeah, that's there on the internet only. If you Google Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Supreme Lord, you'll get it from one of the ISKCON sites. Then the next section describes prayers glorifying the Kali Yuga Avatara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is glorified like anything. How is merciful, how is compassionate, like that. And then he describes the principle that I was talking few minutes ago also, that in each age, in each yuga, it is appropriate to worship the yuga avatar of that age like that. And then finally he tells, remember in the previously, before introducing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he described the bad qualities of Kali Yuga. So he started with bad qualities of Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's greatness, how is the Yuga Avatara, how he is very compassionate and glorified. And then now he talks about some of the benefits of being born in Kali Yuga also. What are those benefits? He says, only those who are advanced in knowledge can appreciate the Kali Yuga benefits. Because in this age, the perfection of life can be easily achieved by Sankirtanagna, by chanting of the holy names congregationally. So somebody doesn't need to meditate for thousands of years, which is not possible for our life expectancy itself. We'll die usually sooner than 100 years or close to 100 years or less than 100 years, right? Usually. So we cannot do meditation, we cannot do elaborate deity worship with pure ingredients, we cannot do elaborate fire sacrifice with pure ingredients and perfect qualified brahmanas. So the best thing for this age and simplest thing and easiest thing is by performing Sankirtan Yajna, we can get perfection. That is the beauty. So actually when we hear these things, it should inspire us to take up the chanting very nicely, as sincerely as we can, as seriously as we can, as carefully as we can, to avoiding offenses and paying attention and in prayerful mood, like that. Yeah. And then next is, by this Sankirtana, we can attain supreme peace and free oneself from cycle of this repeated cycle of birth and death like that. We can go back to spiritual world basically. Then, so that is why even people of other ages sometimes desire to come here, it seems. So that's also described in one of the purports like that. So now, last section is glories of the surrendered people. Somebody who surrendered to Krishna, so what happens to them? They are freed from all worldly obligations and they do not need to perform purificatory atonement processes, because normally atonement processes are recommended for somebody who's following other processes like karma yoga, gnana yoga like that. But for bhakti yogi, that is not required like that. And this is also very important verse. This is often quoted verse, 41st verse. So let me try to pull up that verse so we can take a look at that verse also. I'll go to Veda base. Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, 5th chapter, 41st verse. Yeah. Let me share my screen. Okay. This saying, Devarshi Bhutapta Nrinam Pitrinam Nakinkaro Nayam Rinicha Rajan Sarvatmanaya Saranam Saranyam Gato Mukundam Parihritya Kartam. One who has given up all material duties. See, not that I forgot to do one material duty, not that I'm not capable of doing one material duty, even if I give up all material duties, but taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda is important. That's why we still do our material duties nicely. Yeah, but with emphasis to please Krishna. As we go towards full shelter of Krishna, and then who offers shelter to all, that means we should grow to such a position where we can give shelter to others. When can we do that? When we are able to experience that shelter in our heart from pure devotees and Krishna, then only we can extend that shelter to others. What we have, only we can give to others, right? And is not indebted, such a person, okay, is not indebted to demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even one's Pitrus, forefathers. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of Supreme Lord, why he is telling? Why somebody is taken full shelter of Krishna, why he is not indebted to any of these people? Normally, as soon as we're born, we're indebted to parents, demigods, sages, like that is described, right? And other society, that's what he's talking about. But if you taken full shelter of Krishna, we're not indebted to them anymore. Why? Because all these demigods, sages, ordinary beings, they're all part and parcel of Krishna. So then, if you are surrendered to Krishna, Krishna's service, then we don't need to serve them separately. Because when we're serving Krishna, they're all inside Krishna. So they're already automatically getting served. That is clear? So that's what is being explained here. This is a beautiful verse. Prabhupada loved to emphasize this principle in several classes. Let me share my presentation again. So that is the point here. So that completes the fifth, almost, yeah. We're towards the end of the fifth chapter. Let's go through briefly. Basically, after hearing this knowledge from the Navayogandras, 9 Navayogandras, Kinvey felt very extremely satisfied, it seems. Along with the priest, he worshipped the Navayogandras nicely. And then, remember the context? Narada Muni in Dwaraka was telling this to Vasudeva. So, Narada Muni finally concludes to Vasudeva, saying that whatever principles I described in Bhakti, simply apply them what you heard. And be free from material association also simultaneously. Then you will attain supreme, like that it says. But somebody may think, oh, that means Vasudeva is not a pure devotee? Vasudeva is not eternal associate of Krishna? Somebody may think like that. So Narada Muni immediately follows up with glorification of Vasudeva, saying how he is eternal associate of Krishna, how he is already situated in eternal spiritual platform like that. That is what he tells in next few verses. He glorifies him as father of Krishna, how by always remembering him, by always absorbed in service to him, you are purified and you are perfect already. Like that he glorifies Narada Muni. Then Vasudeva was struck with wonder after hearing how, actually he also tells how Krishna is the Supreme Lord, like that he tells actually. Then Vasudeva was struck with wonder, it seems, after hearing the statements. Then Vasudeva and Devaki give up that illusion and anxiety, so-called illusion and anxiety that they were in, whether what will happen to me, like that. So they understood by loving Krishna, everything is possible like that. Then finally, the Falasruti for the section is, anyone who meditates on this narration with fixed attention will purify himself of all contamination. In this life itself, we don't need to wait for next life. All contamination is gone. That means material mode's influence is gone. And will achieve the highest spiritual perfection also, will get Krishna Prem also. That's the beauty of this, hearing this last 5 chapters you heard, especially the 2nd to 5th chapter you heard. Yeah. So 8.5, that's okay. I wanted to spend the first chapter and the last chapter more time because there are key learnings from these chapters. Because this is the section where we're receiving the wonderful instructions. What will happen to people who don't surrender to Krishna? What will happen to people who will surrender to Krishna? And what are we supposed to do in the Kali Yuga? Worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How are we supposed to do? Chanting is the main thing, like that. Now that we learned that, now the narration goes to different place again. So basically, this again goes to how Yadu dynasty retires to Prabhas Kshetra. So basically what happens is, the demigod is described, the scene is described, Krishna is in Dwaraka now, and then the demigods come to see Krishna, Lord Krishna in Dwaraka. And why are they coming? Remember in the 10th canto, first chapter, is described, demigods go to Supreme Lord, and they pray at Shirasagara, that milk ocean. And they go to Brahma saying that, oh my God, so many demons are troubling. Earth goes to Brahma. And then Brahma along with Earth and other demigods go to shore of the milk ocean and prays to Supreme Lord. And the Supreme Lord tells to Brahma in his heart that, don't worry, I will I'll appear in this material world. So tell all the demigods to take that position like that, in that Yadu dynasty like that. So now they came to tell Krishna that, my dear Krishna, we are so thankful. You're so true to your vows. You gave the vow that you were going to come. You came. You told us that you're going to relieve all the anxieties of the demons, and you took care of it. You kept your promise. So we are so grateful to you. If you so desire, you can leave. You can go back to your abode, like that they offer, basically, in essence. And obviously in the process, like any prayers in the Srimad Bhagavatam, they glorify Krishna's lotus feet and they glorify Krishna's transcendental position. Transcendental position means one who is beyond the modes, one who is controlling the modes, one who is taking an incarnation of Mahavishnu. Through that, he creates the rest of the creation, material world creation, like that. Like that, they glorify so much. And then they also glorify Krishna Katha and then Krishna's Charnamrita also. How they are very, very purifying. If you notice, this is a common theme in Srimad Bhagavatam, glorification of Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting of Krishna Katha. So we should take that into the heart. That way, every little opportunity we get, we engage in hearing Krishna Katha, we sharing Krishna Katha, or chanting Krishna's whole name, or hearing Krishna's whole name, like that. That's a even while doing some small duties we have where we don't need to pay attention, we should utilize that time for hearing Krishna Katha, like that. And then Lord Brahma, who came with demigods, he also prays to Supreme Lord, specifically emphasizing the aspect that only portion of him comes to take care of the material world creation, maintenance, annihilation, like that. He offers beautiful prayers. And then Lord Krishna tells them, don't worry, I'll come. I'll take care of this one thing, like that he tells. Basically, one thing that he wants to take care of Krishna is actually two main things. That is, one is he wants to dispatch the Yadus from this material world back to their positions as demigods, like that. So, and then also, um, second aspect is he wants to give some service to Uddhava, so he can give association to those in the Naranarayana ashram in the Himalayas, like that, Badrika ashram, like that. So that's what Krishna tells them. Yeah, I'm about. Don't worry, I'll come, like that. And then he tells the senior members. He convinces the senior members of Vaidu dynasty that Brahmana's curse has come to Samba, that we'll all be destroyed. So you should go to Prabhasa Kshetra and worship, like that. Prabhasa Kshetra is one of the holy places, it seems. Especially famous is Lord Shiva, it seems, at that place. So he convinces them to go to Prabhasa Kshetra and worship. Then at that time, Uddhava approaches Krishna and requests him, oh Krishna. He expresses his affection towards Krishna. He tells him, I cannot live without you. It appears that you might be leaving, so please don't leave without me. Please take me also with you. Like that, he starts the request in this chapter. And Krishna responds to him in the next chapter. So now, in the 7th chapter, so let's to summarize. In the 6th chapter, remember what was the chapter where we had this first chapter? First chapter of the 11th canto, we heard about curse of the Brahmanas on the Yadu dynasty. We heard about they powdering the that iron club and all that we heard. Now this continuing from this, in this chapter we heard about how Yadus went to Prabhas Kshetra, following the curse, like that. In between was instructions of Narada Muni to Vasudeva by referring to Maharaj Nimi and Navayogandra's conversation. Hopefully you're following the sequence. Yeah. Then, so here we heard about how Krishna is making plans to go back. Krishna convinced Yadurashti to go to Prabhas Kshetra, and how Uddhava requested Krishna, can I please come with you, like that. Then the transition to 7th chapter. 7th chapter, Uddhava responds to Krishna responds to Uddhava. Actually, now onwards the Uddhava Gita section starts for a long time. So many chapters in the 11th canto. Most of the 11th canto is Uddhava Gita section, where Krishna is instructing Uddhava. So one of the beautiful point I wanted to highlight in this section from Burjan Prabhu's book, he summarizes nicely that we're almost towards the end of the whole Bhagavatam, whole Srimad Bhagavatam. That means Krishna should focus on bhakti, tell about bhakti. Why is he talking about karma, jnana, ashtanga yoga so close to the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam? So Burjan Prabhu analyzes that from the commentaries of Acharyas. He says, bhakti fulfills the purpose of the Vedic literature. That is true. So all the Vedic literature purpose is fulfilled by bhakti. Yeah, because the essence of the whole Vedic literature, Vedesya Sarve Ahameva Vedyo, knowing Krishna is the essence of the whole Vedas, right? Krishna personally told. So bhakti, if somebody is engaged in bhakti to Supreme Lord, that fulfills the purpose of Vedic literature. However, Vedic system is very liberal and inclusive. That means somebody may not be in mode of goodness, somebody may be in mode of passion, mode of ignorance. They're not ready to take up bhakti towards Supreme Lord yet. So that is why Krishna considers them also. Krishna is compassionate towards them. And that's the Vedic system describes the karma, gnana, and yoga processes also like that. Number 2. Number 3, it protects the confidentiality bhakti. If everything is very, very crystal clear, karma, gnana, yoga in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, last end of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is bhakti only. It becomes super clear that bhakti is the best like that. But then bhakti is meant to be confidential. Number 1. Number 2, bhakti is rarely attained by anybody. Sudurlabha, we hear from Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Because by bhakti, somebody can even control the Supreme Lord also. So bhakti is very rarely obtained. So to maintain that confidentiality bhakti, Krishna describes this karma, gnana, yoga also. In fact, in the end of the 11th canto, how Krishna leaves his planet also is interesting. How he leaves a material body for somebody to think, oh, Krishna is just a ordinary person only. See, material body is there. That means he's not Supreme Lord. He goes to such an extent to give faith in their own process for other people like that. And then Krishna has a tendency to speak knowledge and philosophy. Meaning, Burijan Prabhu in his study guide refers to Gopi's comments. Gopi said, it seems, oh, even when Krishna is enjoying with us in Rasalila, before Rasalila, he started talking about philosophy because he loves philosophy so much. Not only that, when he sent Uddhava to give message to us, telling that we're going to come, he sent a lot of philosophical knowledge through as a message through Uddhava, which you probably remember that. Basically, in the 10th canto, basically he tells about how he's the Supreme Lord, he's all in everyone's heart, like that kind of knowledge also gives. So gopis are recollecting that. That means he's used to speaking knowledge and philosophy like that. That's the other reason Burijan Prabhu analyzes in his study guide like that. So basically, Krishna starts to describe some aspects of karma, gnana, and yoga in this section. And then Uddhava asks for further instructions. Then that is where Krishna starts to elaborate by describing about Avaduta Brahmana. But before he wants to describe Avaduta Brahmana, which is very famous, people know this section of Bhagavatam as 24 Gurus. So Krishna describing about how Avaduta Brahmana learned from 24 Gurus. But before describing that knowledge, Krishna intelligently tells them what is the importance of learning spiritual insights through one's own intelligence. That means by observing things around us through our intelligence, how we should learn things that are favorable to our bhakti, how we should learn is very, very important. Krishna emphasizes on that aspect. So meaning, sometimes we hear, my spiritual master often says, that what we're learning from Guru, Sadhu and Shastra is like theoretical knowledge. And then when we're living in this world, in the association of devotees, doing services with devotees, going to office and doing office work, going to college to doing studies, at that time, we can observe things with the eyes of the Shastra, Shastra Chakshu, with the knowledge we gain from Guru and Sadhu. That means we're applying theoretical knowledge in the lab of our daily life like that. Then we'll see, we're experimenting, we're seeing things like that. One common example given is, if somebody we see is angry, oh my God, he's influenced by mode of passion and ignorance. That's why he's affecting like that, is behaving like that. Like that we see. If we see person with good qualities, wow, he has such a nice quality of being kind. That is a mode of goodness quality he has. That is so conducive to bhakti. Like that we can think. So like that, Krishna expresses how we should gain spiritual insights through our own spiritual intelligence, like our own intelligence, like that. Obviously, this is not mental speculation. What is the difference between mental speculation and philosophical speculation? Philosophical speculation has a basis based on what we already heard from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Using that, we gain insights. Not our own new philosophy, we don't bring it out like that. So then after telling the importance of using intelligence to gain spiritual insights, now Krishna introduces another reference. He tells King Yadu one time met Avadhuta Brahmana. Who is King Yadu? He is one of the ancestors of Lord Krishna. King Yadu met one of the saintly Brahmana, Avadhuta Brahmana, he says. Then that Avadhuta Brahmana shared with him the insights he learned from 24 gurus, like that. What happens is, the circumstance described here is, King Ketu sees this Avadhuta Brahmana lying on the ground without doing anything, but is simultaneously very effulgent, very bright. He's obviously that is the nature of saintly persons. You cannot hide the saintliness. So he naturally goes to him and asks him, "Why are you like this?" Uh, like that, he wants to learn from him. See, even though externally he appeared like that, King Yadu himself is a great devotee, so he could understand the greatness of this person. That's why he inquired from him. Then he tells about the 24 gurus he learned from. That's where several chapters will go. We'll cover 19 of the gurus in these next two chapters we're going to cover today. Yeah. So in this 7th chapter, 9 of the gurus are mentioned. Okay. These are the 9 of the gurus. I have another slide that talks about some detail of this also. Let me go to that slide. Yeah. So these 9 of the gurus, what did he learn out of the Brahmana? This section is very important for us. This section and next chapter, what can we learn from them? Yeah. So he describes how from Yat he learned tolerance and steadfastness. That means somebody is acting aggressive to us, we understand. Oh, they're out of control because they're being controlled by laws of nature. That's why they're behaving like that to me. And moreover, anything that happens to me is sanctioned by the Supreme Law, like that. That's how when we can develop tolerance, not just gritting of teeth and doing it, but understanding that is sanctioned by the Supreme Lord, like that. And then next one is, and steadfastness. Steadfastness means what? Being fixed in our goal and endeavoring steadily, like that, in spite of difficulties, obstacles coming in the way. So even in difficulty, he learned to remain focused on his spiritual progress from the earth. Now from the mountain and tree, from the mountain he learned how mountain gives so many things to so many people. It always engage in service. So similarly, we should engage in welfare of others. And similarly for tree also, tree is very common example we hear. How tree is very selfless. Tree gives all, there's a lot of articles and videos that talking about how selflessness nature of the tree. Not only the tolerant nature of tree, but selflessness nature of tree. How from a tree gives shade when everything is nice, and tree gives fruits, flowers, or tree gives um, like branches, so we can use it for building these homes we have, furniture we have, like that. And even tree trunk when it dies also, that we can use it for these purposes, like that, as wood, like that. And more importantly, he learned that tree, when you unplug a tree, that means you knock out a tree and plant it another place, move it to another place, plant it and water it, it still continues to grow. That is the steadfast nature of the tree, he understands. So he thinks, even if I'm disturbed by somebody, even my life circumstances disturb me, still I should continue my practices of spiritual life steadfastly, like that. That is a lesson we learned from the trees. And from the wind, sometimes wind when it's traveling, or air when it's traveling, if it's going on top of the flower garden, it catches nice aroma. And when it's traveling on a filthy place, trash, then it carries the filthy aromas with it. But it doesn't mix with the aroma. That means again it goes on to another place, it will be different. It now doesn't mix with it, air. Similarly, he learned the lesson of detachment. Whether something pleasant happens, unpleasant happens, never mind. I'll be detached from that like that. So even though body is experiencing different things in terms of quality, but I will never identify with the body, nor becomes attached to the body and bodily activities like that. That is a principle lesson he learned from wind. Similar lesson from the sky also. How sky doesn't mix with the clouds and air like that, nor it can be divided by anything. Similarly, soul or super soul never mixes with the body or anything, even though soul is in the material body for now. And for the water is interesting. He learns to be, water has qualities of being pure and gentle. Similarly, saintly person is pure and gentle also. And also when he speaks Krishna Katha. So he purifies others. Like how water purifies when we take bath. Similarly, saintly person when speaking Krishna Katha, he purifies other souls like that. And how pure water is transparent. Similarly, saintly persons are transparent. That means when you look through the hearts, we can see Supreme Person of Godhead in their heart like that. So another beautiful example is fire. What he learned from fire is again detachment. Let us say we put lots of things in the fire. If the fire is strong, it will burn everything into ashes. Similarly, even if saintly person happens to be eating contaminated food, he will not get any reactions for the eating contaminated food. He will burn away with his purity that contaminations to ashes. Similarly, sometimes fire may be burning openly, sometimes they may be covered in the pot. So saintly persons, sometimes they reveal, I am the Guru, I will give you initiation. And then you give me offerings, I'll purify you like that. Sometimes he can do that openly like that. Sometimes he doesn't disclose his saintliness. He will just stay like ordinary person only, like saintly person. So that's what he's saying. That's similarly how fire is under a pot, like that. But it's still saintly, no matter what, whether it's under a pot or not, fire is fire. Similarly, whether he exhibits his saintliness or not, he's still a saint like that. Similarly, ashes, sometimes when the fire has gone down, it became ashes. When you move the ashes, when you take a fan and move like this on the ashes, fire can again come like that. Similarly, ever-present Supreme Lord can be stirred into manifesting his presence when his devotee repeatedly chant and hear his glories. That time Supreme Lord can manifest through them. So these are the six. Three more we can learn from this chapter. Moon. How moon goes through its phases of growing, and at least from our perception, we see moon is growing, waxing moon, and waning moon. But moon is not changing. Similarly, soul doesn't change. No matter what phase of life we are, sometimes we'll feel like we're young, sometimes we're old. The bodies, soul may inhabit different kinds of bodies, doesn't matter. But is not changing. That is the lesson he learned here. So then sun. Sun what the lesson he learned is accepting material objects and return to the correct person at the right time for the right purpose. This is what saintly persons do. He learned that lesson. How is it related to sun? Sun takes the water from the ocean and then it forms clouds, and at the right time the clouds will shower rain like that. Similarly, saintly persons, even though people give them gifts like that, they don't become overly attached to them. They don't become happy, overjoyed when somebody gives them nice things. So they still remain detached. And then they will offer that to somebody else also. And another lesson he learned is how sun is reflected in many places, but it remains still the same. For example, there are 100 parts, sun will be reflected in 100 parts, but sun is remaining same, not changed. Similarly, soul is unchanged, even though we take different bodies at different times, even though consciousness is reflected through different bodies like that. So last example in this chapter is about pigeon. One time there used to be a pigeon that was so attached to his family members that when the children got caught, mother was lamenting, and mother got caught, and then father pigeon also was lamenting, instead of thinking about himself also, he also got caught. Similarly, we got this valuable human body, rare form of human life, which is very valuable to get to liberation, get to spiritual constitutional position of pure devotion service with Krishna, get to eternal happiness, ever-growing happiness. But if you simply use this body and the intelligence that we have, all the resources we have, just to take care of family, nothing else, no spiritual thing, nothing, then it's like somebody who's climbing all the way to Mount Everest and then they just slip and fall down. What is the use of climbing all the way if you're just going to fall down anyway, slip and fall down? Similarly, they're compared to like a pigeon basically. You go get a valuable human body, we should use it properly instead of wasting it away in terms of time, energy, enthusiasm we have like that. So now in the next chapter, he tells 9 more gurus. After describing these 9 gurus, he describes 9 more gurus. Actually, 10 gurus in the previous verse. Mountain and tree are here. And then 9 more gurus he explains in the next chapter. I didn't have time to prepare a table for each of these, but we can refer to the book and I will explain each of them. Considering that we're running out of time also. Let me go to the chapter number 8, right? Chapter number 8. These are also nice lessons for us to learn. With simple examples, we're learning profound principles through Srimad Bhagavatam. Remember, Krishna is referring to this pastime where Yadu is learning from Avadhuta Brahmana. So these are very valuable instructions for us. So Python, what can we learn from Python? Python, what can we? Oh, I wrote some of them in the table. Looks like good. Except basically Python, what does it do? It sits at one place in the forest. It seems only if something crosses its path, something comes to it, it devours it. That is the food. It doesn't go hunting like lion, tiger like that. So that's the nature of Python. So similarly, we should also, the lesson he learned is that whatever food comes, irrespective of the quality of the food or best class food or worst class food or quantity of food, little food or too much food, doesn't matter. He accepts it as Krishna's mercy like that. Well, that is one thing we learned. Second thing is that means as practicing devotees, we should always not try to be lookout for, oh, this is not a good food. I don't want to eat today. This is wonderful food. I will eat too much of it. Not like that. We eat whatever is needed for our body to be healthy. Healthy food, good quality food we take and eat. Not necessarily opulent food, fatty food that will destroy our health like that. Then also not only for food, in terms of over endeavor also. Atyahara, remember from Nectar of Instruction, verse 2. Like that, we don't endeavor too much for material objectives, material goals. We do whatever is required nicely to follow our prescribed duties, to take care of what our bodily needs, our family needs. Like that, we do whatever is needed minimum. But then, for spiritual life, we're very active, we're very alert, we're enthusiastic in pursuing spiritual interest like that. Not like Python in spiritual life. That is the point here. Then another 11th guru is ocean. Ocean is very deep, Similarly, a saintly person is very deep in his realization, in his consciousness, that just because of some limited happiness, he'll become overjoyed and he will do all mistakes and become proud, overconfident, not like that. And similarly, when situations come that makes him feel morose or dry up like that, then during times of lack, when he doesn't get sufficient opportunities, sufficient happiness, enjoyment opportunities, sufficient pleasure, he doesn't feel too morose. He'll continue in bhakti no matter what circumstance and situation. How is this possible? We know according to the time we'll go through suffering and good times will come. Why good times will come? Because Krishna is taking care of us. Krishna is our best friend. He will do the best thing for us. He will be looking out for us. That is the lesson we can learn from ocean. Now coming to the moth. Moth, many of you might be knowing, moth means that light flies, they come around wherever light is there, fire is there, and they come attracted to the light. Wow, it looks nice, and they keep coming, and they get attracted to the light, but it's very hot, and they die because of the heat. And they actually see other moths dying, but they still cannot control themselves. Wow, it's so nice. I cannot control my eyes like that. They keep going. And then they die. Similarly, out of all the sense objects we have, that we can see, we can hear, we can taste, we can smell, we can touch. Woman's form that we can see is most dangerous, is a cause of destruction. Attachment to form is a cause of destruction, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. So we should be detached from the desire to see beautiful, beautiful women like that, or beautiful opposite sex, for example, for a woman. So then, so we understand, even though hearing prajalpa or tasting some unfavorable substances is bad, but sight is the most dangerous thing we should be cautious about. That's what we can learn from moth example. And then honeybees example, apparently there are two kinds of honeybees. We get to learn some worldly knowledge also through Srimad Bhagavatam. Brahmara and Makshika are two types of honeybees. Brahmara, these kind of birds, honeybees, they go from flower to flower and collect the honey it seems. And then they bring it. And then another kind of honeybees called Makshika, they accumulate the honey in the honey hive it seems. So now, from the first one, he learned to accept that how a first Brahmara honeybee is taking little bit honey from this flower, little bit from honey from next flower like that. He learned the art of Madhukari. That means we take little bit from this home, little bit from this home by begging, by Madhukari like that. That means not too much from one place like that. So that is one thing he learned. And then he also learned to eat only enough to keep body and soul together. So not to become burden to others' kindness, it seems. That means if I'm eating too much, then I'm becoming burden on others like that. Another important thing is, if we accumulate so much more than what we need, it's going to be wasted, because what happens to honeybee when they cultivate honey hive? Some human being goes there and puts some fire and drives away all the honeybees and takes the honey nicely and enjoys. Similarly, we should be accumulating only whatever is required for life, not too much more than what we need. That's waste. That is the other lesson you learned from honeybees here. I think I did not write up the rest of them, but I'll read from the book and share with you. So 14th example, 14th guru is the elephant. From elephant example, many of you might have heard that elephant is attracted to she woman, it seems. So what the people who catch elephants, what they do is they train a she elephant to go and rub against the male elephant. And that time, male elephant becomes mad, it seems, mad for the woman elephant. Then she runs after the woman elephant, and the lady elephant is trained in such a way to go slightly next to a pit that is covered by grass. So this male elephant doesn't know that it goes and falls into the pit. That's how they catch the male elephant systems. So the sadhu learned that never touch a woman's form, even if wooden doll that is in the woman shape, also not to touch like that. Of course, this for sannyas is very important, but for us also we need to understand the dangers of the opposite sex, touching the opposite sex basically. And then 15th example is about the bees, honeybees, again by honeybees. Or this example we discussed about how if you accumulate too many things, the hard-end material earnings will go away basically. That is the lesson is being described here. So now, in the 16th guru is a deer. What is 16th guru deer? He explains, deer is attracted by flute sound of the hunter, it seems. So it will hear the beautiful sound coming from the hunter, and it goes, oh, where is the sound coming? Where is the sound coming? And it goes there, and hunter will catch, because attracted to sense object of beautiful sound like that. Similarly, one who is serious about spiritual progress should carefully study the deeds example and avoid mundane songs, cinema songs, mundane music like that. We should hear spiritual kirtan, Krishna Katha, Krishna's holy names, like that, Krishna's bhajans, Vaishnava bhajans we can hear. Not the mundane singing, mundane dancing, mundane musical entertainment. Uh, especially entertainment offered by beautiful women. when they sing, beautiful women sing, dancing and musical instrument like that also. That's what he learned from deer as a guru. Now 17th guru is the fish example. Many of you might know how fish is caught. Fish is caught with the by keeping a bait of another worms like that. Some worms they sell, keep that worm to that thing hook, and then they put it, and then fish thinks, wow, this is tasty. Actually, fish has so much food to eat in the ocean or river or pond, wherever it is. But it sees something variety is there. Let me go try. And it tries to taste it and get caught in the hook. Tongue gets caught in the hook, and that's how fish is caught. So we should be controlling our tongue. How do we do that? By developing a taste for loudly chanting the name of the Lord and by accepting Krishna Prasadam only like that. Yeah, that's the way we can control tongue. So we should be careful not to go after, oh, that program has beautiful food. That host who called me, they will have beautiful food. We should not go for food. We should go for Krishna Katha only. And we should accept what is healthy for us and in moderate proportion, not too much. That is what he learned from 17th Guru of fish. Now the 18th Guru covers the rest of the whole chapter. That is the Pingala pastime. This is a interesting pastime. It's a pastime of a prostitute, interestingly. So the way this pastime goes is, once upon a time there is a prostitute by name Pingala, it seems. Okay, I don't have any slide here, so I'll stop sharing. So basically, this Pingala was a prostitute. What she did one fine day, she was waiting for customers to come. So she went outside the home, she's standing in front of the door and trying to allure anybody who's passing by and thinking, maybe he will come today, maybe he would like to enjoy me today, like that, maybe he has a lot of money and maybe he will come, like that. She's thinking like that, it seems. Like that, whole night is almost spent. Then she got a beautiful realization. The beautiful realization she got was, all these people are temporary people. Even if they come, even if somebody comes for one night, they'll give little money or a lot of money. So, but next day, after the money is gone, I need to look for next customer again. They're temporary. Whereas, if I'm placing shelter in this temporary, I'm bound to lose. Whereas if I place my shelter in the Almighty Supreme Lord, I develop my attachment to Supreme Lord, I worship the Supreme Lord, I place faith in Supreme Lord, I surrender to Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord is eternal. Supreme Lord is never gives up on anything. Is always eager to give shelter to surrendered soul. So I should take shelter of Supreme Lord. I should be indifferent to this, whether I get something or not for material enjoyment like that. So that is a beautiful realization this Pingala prostitute gets. That's what we can learn from here. Let me read from the commentary of Vishwanath Chakra Thakur. She thinks, will you worship the Lord to gain deliverance? No, Pingala said. When a jiva sees the world as being devoured by time, he becomes detached from material enjoyment. So detachment from material enjoyment is what we can learn from Pingala. And such a person, he becomes, he then becomes his own protection from samsara. Because I analyze with my spiritual intelligence how the sense enjoyment is harmful for my spiritual life. Now this knowledge of how harmful is sense enjoyment is my protection like that. In fact, Chaitanya Charitamrita also describes this principle when describing about Bhagavad Gita. I believe it's third chapter, 43rd verse context, where when we sharpen our spiritual intelligence with the wisdom provided by scriptures like this, then we can, like how when I sharpen the sword, I can use it in the time of need. When the intelligence is sharp with the wisdom, how did sense enjoyment is dangerous, how it will bind me into birth and death cycle. Then I can use that intelligence at the right time when some temptation comes from sense gratification like that. That's what is described. So that is the learning we can learn from Pingala's story like that. Now, from now on, I will worship the Supreme Lord with prema alone. Like that, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments like that. So material desire is undoubtedly cause of greatest unhappiness, and freedom from such material desire is the cause of greatest happiness. That's how this chapter concludes. 8th chapter concludes. So Pingala understood this and became free from all material desires and happily went to sleep, and with the conviction that I should worship the Supreme Lord. So that is the end of the 8th chapter today. So just to summarize, we learned in the 5th chapter the last two question answers from Maharaj Nimi to Navyogendras, right? So because I have the slide, I'll point to that one more time. So last two questions were, what happens to not devotees who don't worship? We understood they really go to suffering in this life and they go to hellish planets also. And the last question we heard about is, if you understand what is the Yuvatara for this age, how does it look? How does what are its characteristics? Then we're not swayed by other people saying, oh, I am the Kalki Avatara, I am the Kali Yuga Avatara. Somebody is saying like that. We don't pay attention to that. We follow Shastra and we worship that Yuga Avatara by understanding how he is supposed to be worshipped. In this Kali Yuga, we learned that is supposed to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Yuga Avatara. Krishna Chaitanya is supposed to be worshipped by Sankirtana, by chanting the holy name like that. And by doing that, we'll attain perfection, we heard. And then, of course, this is about the conclusion of the chapter. Vasudeva and Devaki were happy hearing from Narada Muni, and they were satisfied like that, we heard. And then we went to the 6th chapter. Then that describes some more story about how Krishna encouraged Yadu dynasty to go to Prabhas Kshetra. We didn't hear about how they're fighting yet, but he encouraged them to go to Prabhas Kshetra with his master plan that he had. Of course, we also heard how demigods pray and glorify him and encourage him to go back to his abode like that. And Uddhava's request to Krishna to take him also. And then further to that, we go to the next chapter, 7th chapter. Now here onwards, Uddhava Gita really started more and more. So here onwards, we heard about how Krishna initially gives them about bhakti and it describes about different paths. And then he says how we need to use the spiritual intelligence to gain realization from ordinary, so-called ordinary things we see in life, observations like that. And then he started to describe the pastime about Yadu Maharaj asking Avadhuta Brahmana, and Avadhuta Brahmana sharing transcendental knowledge to him, what he learned from 24 gurus, just things in the nature that he saw, and what he got from them, what are lessons he got from them. So we started to describe, and we learned lessons from 19 gurus so far in these 2 chapters. And the next 5 more gurus we'll hear in the next chapter onwards. I can mention that one time. The 5 more gurus are hawk, child, young girl, arrow maker, serpent, of course, spider is also there. Spider, and there are more gurus also, wasp, and the body itself. That's coming up in the 9th chapter. Yeah. So now we heard about from Yet how he learned tolerance and steadfastness from mountain and tree, tolerance and specially steadfastness also, like uh, meaning don't worry, continuing a spiritual path irrespective of what disturbances happens. From wind or air he learned detachment. So no matter very happy enjoyment comes or suffering comes in middle world, stay in the spiritual path. And then from the sky he learned that soul is detached, never mixed with any body. Soul is always eternal and spiritual. And then from water he learned the nature of being pure and gentle, and helping others, purifying others through Krishna Katha, and cultivating Krishna's remembrance in the heart. And through fire he learned about detachment and purity, with which we can destroy impurities that we can come across also. And we can saintly person can benefit others by taking their sinful reactions, even like how Guru takes the sinful reactions of disciples. And then from moon he describes that how soul doesn't change, and from sun the purifying nature of purifying others and not becoming change, and taking whatever others give but giving it to the right person at right time, and like that. Even saintly persons take the knowledge also like that from different scriptures, different classes they take, and they share at the right time to the right person, whatever point they need to listen like that. And similarly from pigeon, they learned how we should utilize a valuable human life properly towards spiritual cultivation, not waste it away for just maintaining the family. Not that we should not maintain the family, we should take care of family nicely, but not at the cost of our spiritual life and family spiritual life. And then we heard more gurus in the next chapter about Python, how we should not endeavor too much for material things, but endeavor and be active, enthusiastic for spiritual elevation. And then how ocean is deep, we should develop the depth, not to be disturbed by little bit happiness, little bit suffering. We should stay on the spiritual path nicely, and we should not be succumb to our sense objects like nice woman's form, as we learned from moth example, or not to over endeavor uh, collect whatever good things from different places, different scriptures. It's okay. And then not over endeavor, not to keep collecting like that. And then uh, Madhukari, example of Madhukari, lesson of Madhukari, take from little bit from each household like that. And then other examples we heard, let me go back to that place in book here. Yeah, other examples after the honeybees, we heard is about elephant, how we should be careful about the sense of touch, and then how we should be careful not to accumulate too much that will only be taken away by somebody else. By example of bees again, and then about the deer, how we should be careful to not hear the mundane sounds, mundane songs like that, and then how we should be careful about the tongue. By example of fish, we should not look for tasting this, that, like that. Eat whatever is healthy for us, and then take prasadam, Krishna prasadam only, and use the tongue to chant the holy name. And then finally, we heard the story of Pingala, how she developed detachment from material desires, and then how she came concluded that I will worship Supreme Lord only, exclusively, not get swayed away by any kind of material distraction like that. Hopefully, you love this section. I like this section. Yeah, and more is continuing. Uddhav Gita is wonderful. As you hear many speakers from tomorrow, you will love this section. So many lessons you can learn. Yeah. Any other comments or questions? I know it's 8:50 already. If you have any comments or questions, please share. Yeah. Thank you.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji. Yes.
My only request is that you please, whenever you complete the other slides, please
Yeah.
post it so that we can compile it. I'm compiling every these PPTs because it helps later on studies like that. So that's my
Bro.
request.
Yeah, absolutely, bro.
Thank
Sure.
you.
I'll complete few more slides and send it to you, bro. Yes, yeah.
Sure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Hari Bol.
Thank you, bro. Hare Krishna, bro. Any other comments or questions from anyone? Sure. Yeah, we can meet again tomorrow. It's a wonderful section. You can look forward to it. There are more gurus coming up. You can learn. And Krishna discussed beautiful, beautiful knowledge to the in the coming up sections. How we need to cultivate devotion service, how we need to practice devotion service, what is the goal, what is the not only the ultimate goal, what is the intermediate goal, like that he describes nicely. And it's beautiful and easy to understand compared to Bhagavad Gita also. So please pay attention and you can benefit a lot from this. Thank you so much, devotees. Srimad
Hare
Bhagavatam.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. It was very interesting. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mate. Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo.
Pranam Pavnabhyo. Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna, devotees. Thank you. See you, everyone.